It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. You can also send us an email at randykabc@gmail.com and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. I just realized my podcast is not on iHeart for some reason, and apparently I can do it myself from the podcast app. So let's see if that works, because that would be cool. Hey, subscribe to my podcast. Otherwise, I'm going to keep bugging you about it. Karen Bass has had a very, very, very bad 2 months, and she's had a very bad Monday. Why? Because she thought it would be a good idea to hold a press conference taking some sort of nonsensical victory lap over the conditions at MacArthur Park. You know, the open-air drug den, MacArthur Park. The place where you can buy stolen Social Security numbers, MacArthur Park. The place where we sell stolen goods, MacArthur Park. Karen Bass wanted to talk about what a great job she and Eunisses Hernandez are doing at MacArthur Park. But we've all seen MacArthur Park, and I don't know if it's really been that much improved, but let's see what she has to say.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me thank Chief McDonald, Captain Chavez, Detective Pineda, and the other detective.
Oh, yeah, this is the strangest press conference ever because Karen Bass is sharing the stage with LAPD and Eunisses, and it feels like all three of them are having a different press conference.
And the other detectives who worked on this operation for your work. And thank you to Council Member Hernandez for being here with us as well. There is still work to be done in the MacArthur Park community, but over the past month, there has been real progress made in returning the park to the community. Crime in the area is down. Our message is theft and organized retail crime will not be tolerated in the city of Los Angeles. And immediately following a multi-victim shooting earlier this year, LAPD surged additional resources into the park.
Okay, so there was a big gang shooting, and that's when LAPD finally got the green light to go in there and clean up the park. At least that's what Karen Bass is saying.
We increased a visible footbeat presence and made arrests for suspected gang-related activity.
How about all the drug users and drug dealers? Did you do anything about that?
At the same time,
MacArthur Park is the biggest open-air drug den in Los Angeles. It used to be the MacArthur Park Metro Station, but after the news exposed how disgusting that was, they all moved them out into the park. It's almost like, if you've ever seen the third season of The Wire, Amsterdam. They push all the drug addicts to this one little corner, happens to be MacArthur Park in downtown LA, and you kind of can just do whatever you want there, as long as you don't go anywhere else. Turns out they go everywhere else.
At the same time, the city installed fencing along the east side of Alvarado, which has...
Wait a second. Karen Bass is on the stage with Eunisses Hernandez talking about their fencing a park to keep out the bad element? You know, you might not remember this, but back in so long ago, 2022... LA City Councilman Mitch O'Farrell cleaned out Echo Park because Echo Park was a massive drug den and a massive homeless encampment, and people could not take their kids to the park. And one of the things he did to keep all the bad out of the park was put up a big old fence. And he lost his job over that. Hugo Soto Martinez and Eunisses Hernandez called him a bigot for that. Here we are, 3 years later, and now Karen Bass is sharing the stage with Eunisses, celebrating a fence to keep the bad element out of the park. It's almost like these people are completely disingenuous. Also, the politics of Karen Bass, who no one wants to share the stage with her, going on stage with Eunisses Hernandez, tells you the alliances that she's forming to save her political career. She's trying to shore up her support from the Democrat Socialists of America so their buddy, Kenneth Mejia, the controller, doesn't run against her next year. That's what's going on here. She's bending the knee to Eunisses Hernandez.
At the same time, the city installed fencing along the east side of Alvarado,
Now in 2025, it's okay to fence a park that's got a bunch of bad people in it.
which has helped disrupt the illegal sales of drugs and weapons, along with halting the associated violence in the area. Chief McDonald will say more about this, but many of those vending stands provided an open-air market for illegal activity.
Are you just discovering this? Because this has been well known for years and years and years. It was a problem before Karen Bass was mayor, and it'll probably be a problem after Karen Bass is mayor. If you want to buy stolen goods in Northern California, you go to Market Street and the Mission in San Francisco. If you want to buy stolen goods in Southern California, you go to MacArthur Park. As much as we love to talk about organized retail theft and fencing and everything's going on eBay and Facebook Marketplace, a lot of stolen goods end up at MacArthur Park.
Now, after collaborative and comprehensive efforts, including actions by the council office and community groups, the results are beginning to show.
Beginning. So we're taking a victory lap over a minor improvement that, by the way, could be causation of the efforts that Karen Bass is talking about here, the completely different efforts that Eunisses Hernandez is about to talk about. But it could also just be a correlation with the fact that that park is heavily populated by people who are in the country illegally, and some of them might be in hiding right now.
At the end of last week, an LAPD operation recovered more than $350,000 worth of stolen merchandise in the MacArthur Park area. This successful operation is a result of our continued public safety surge in the area.
We're surging, just like we surged on the Metro.
So the city's approach is comprehensive. We deployed the gang reduction youth development teams to de-escalate.
The what? Again, we need to look at the city budget, and we don't need Kenneth Mejia looking at the city budget. We need to look at the city budget from a completely common sense standpoint.
So the city's approach is comprehensive. We deployed the gang reduction youth development teams to de-escalate and prevent retaliatory shootings.
If you know who the gang members are, why aren't they in prison? Well, a lot of them are teenagers. I guess they'd end up in juvie, and then they're beating up the probation officers at Los Padrinos, and somehow it's the officers' fault.
A dedicated circle team has been deployed to respond to mental health crises.
So not only are we surging the LAPD, but we're surging another department we're paying for, the Youth Development Gang Agency. We're also surging Circle, which is a homelessness response team. Boy, are we spending a lot of money to do the same job. Get the people that shouldn't be in the park out of the park, except only one of those people has the authority to do that, and that's the police.
And we drew more than 4,700 people in 4 events to safe events in the park.
Yikes.
We're holding ongoing conversations with residents, vendors, business owners, and community organizations to inform our strategy. And we're bringing city services and resources to clean up the area.
So it's not clean yet. So you're having a celebratory press conference about the fact that you're starting to clean up MacArthur Park. I don't think that's how this works.
More than 200 tons of debris have been removed since the beginning of September, and I want to particularly thank...
That's not something you should be proud of. If there were 200 tons of debris in the park and you finally cleaned it all up, that's not a success story. Because, to use everyone's favorite term, unless you got to the root cause of why there's so much trash in the park to begin with, it's going to fill up again.
Councilmember Hernandez for her leadership here.
Oh, great. By the way, have I mentioned that this whole press conference is Karen Bass bending the knee to Eunisses so the DSA saves her ass and supports her in next March's primary?
Particularly thank Councilmember Hernandez for her leadership here.
Oh, we got to thank Eunisses for her leadership. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Doing such a great job. MacArthur Park is definitely not a drug den hellhole.
Staffing has been increased to clean and maintain the park. New solar streetlights were installed and improvements to...
Why do we need solar streetlights? Oh, that's right. Because the copper wire keeps getting ripped out of the regular streetlights, and we can't do anything about that. Just wait till they figure out how to steal the solar power technology.
New solar streetlights were installed and improvements to public parking were made to directly support legal businesses. Efforts by LAPD being led by the councilwoman. LAPD.
I bet she worked great with the LAPD because, you know, Eunisses loves the cops, except she is the queen of defund the police. I mean, I've played the clip a million times, and I guess I'll play it 1,000,001.
Because we are the defund the police people, right?
LAPD will continue its aggressive push, and the city will ramp up partnerships with community groups to provide assistance and make everyone safer. There are still many individuals.
What community groups? Notice how every time she says we're going to let LAPD do their job, we're also going to spend a bunch of money on a whole bunch of other agencies. What exactly are we doing?
There are still many individuals suffering from addiction.
Okay, so we haven't cleaned out the park. So here's the big difference between the mayor of Los Angeles and the new mayor of San Francisco, Daniel Lurie. As I have mentioned many times, one of the reasons that it's so fascinating to cover San Francisco is it's like the ghost of Christmas future when it comes to Los Angeles politics, because they make a mistake, they're starting to course correct from it, and we see what they're doing, and we double down on what we're doing. Daniel Lurie, new mayor of San Francisco, is going to the open-air drug dens and conducting mass arrests, getting people into jail, getting people into treatment when it's appropriate. And it's starting to make a dent in the problem because you got to make these people uncomfortable. Apparently, we've done everything to clean up this park except get the drug addicts out of there, which is the main reason that no one's going to that park.
There are still many individuals suffering from addiction.
And why are you allowing them to lay around, overdose, and die in the park? You leaving them there is a big problem.
We have to make sure that they get the resources they need, and in that...
How about no one's allowed at the park after dark? How about that? How about we enforce that? And then we keep the park clean. If people are living in MacArthur Park, it will never be clean. And you can talk about all the surges you're doing and all these other programs. If you're not getting the drug addicts out of the park, no one's taking their kids to the park so they could say, Mommy, what's this needle?
We have to make sure that they get the resources they need, and in that spirit, circle teams as well as street medicine teams are out there offering services. Hopefully, we will be able to get more people safely in treatment. We've also increased outreach to individuals suffering from mental illness. And we are ready.
And I love that we talk about mental illness, and there is mental illness out there. There's definitely untreated mental illness out there. But one of the things that seems to never, ever, ever get any admission from our local electeds in Los Angeles or in the state of California is the meth to mental illness pipeline. We could talk all we want about how there's so much untreated mental illness out there. But how much of that mental illness was caused by the fact that you enable people to do untold amounts of methamphetamine that rots their brain from the inside out, and that's what makes them paranoid. That's what makes them schizophrenic. Yeah, there are some people that are born with those diseases, and that's completely tragic. But so much of this is man-made, and we allow it because you don't want to arrest the drug users.
And we are ready to continue to provide.
And this is, by the way, we're in a post-Prop 36 world. I thought now we're supposed to arrest people for drug possession and then force them into treatment. Are we not doing that, Karen Bass?
And we are ready to continue to provide outreach and street medicine teams. Again, the work continues. To our community members and business owners, we hear you and we are taking action.
No, you're not.
This is not something.
I'm taking a victory lap so I can have a press conference that's not about the fires, and maybe for one day people will forget about the fires, which they didn't. She got peppered with a whole bunch of questions about the text messages.
This is not something that can be solved overnight, but with...
So then what are you doing? What is this press conference for?
But with our sustained, comprehensive approach, I know that we can return the beautiful MacArthur Park back to the families who deserve to be there safely.
So the families can't go there right now.
And with that, let me introduce the councilwoman from the area, Eunisses Hernandez.
That's what this press conference is about. Eunisses said, I want you to go with me to MacArthur Park and tell me I'm doing a great job. And then I won't send my DSA forces after you to take you down next March. That's what this is about. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I am going to play you what Eunisses has to say because her description of the success at MacArthur Park is everything wrong with the, quote, homeless industrial complex. But before we get to that, we're going to hear some of Karen Bass's Q&A from this presser. Sit tight, buckle up, everybody. We got lots of Karen Bass sound. If you live or work near MacArthur Park and you want to give us an on-the-ground report of how much better it is, I'd love to hear from you. 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. More Karen Bass, more Eunisses Hernandez. Next, it's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. LA Mayor Karen Bass and Councilwoman Eunisses Hernandez say they've done a great job. Thank them for their leadership. MacArthur Park's all better now. I don't buy it. Do you? 800-222-KABC. Let's go to Ben in Beverly Hills. Ben, hello.
Hello. How are you?
Doing great.
I hope you're better than our MacArthur Park. I think increasingly Democrats are just gaslighting on everything. I used to live there, and I drove through recently. It is a nightmare. It looks very, very threatening to visitors. No visitors in their right mind would get out of their car. So I'm trying to figure out, how do we confront a local government that lies to us about the homeless funds, lies to us about the off the streets programs, lies to us about MacArthur Park. There's no long-term plan. There's no understanding of the real problem, which is life skills. I'm not even going to judge people for using drugs or alcohol wrongly. If they can pay for their drugs and alcohol, why can't they pay for their housing and lifestyle? That's, I think, the basis of the problem. Let them have a stake in something, maybe put them out of town and give them some resources to do outside of the city where they won't harm us and burn our neighborhoods down.
Unfortunately, Ben, Karen Bass would say that's not compassionate because they're from that neighborhood. They're as much a part of the neighborhood as you are. And that's the insanity. Until we vote for different people, we're going to have the same nonsense. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. Now, here's an interesting part of the press conference. Karen Bass, after talking about how great MacArthur Park is now, got asked about Norm Langer, the owner of Langer's, the legendary deli right next to MacArthur Park that threatened to close late last year. He was telling the press a very different story today than what Karen Bass was telling, and she needed to answer for the discrepancy.
This is just a question in regard to today, Mayor. I know you're all talking about this being a community and collaborative effort. Norm Langer at Langer's wanted to know why he wasn't made aware of any of these statistics, or he doesn't blame the LAPD, but says he's not seeing the resources and he's not seeing the change. And he's calling the fencing.
So Norm Langer, who actually works in that area, is not seeing the change and doesn't know what she's talking about, all these statistics where it's safe now.
He's calling the fencing down there blight.
You know, it's interesting. I know that people from my office as well as LAPD are in contact with Mr. Langer regularly. So I'm not sure why he didn't know.
I just spoke to him. Any other questions? He's pissed with you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Okay, in the background, I can tell that's the guy from Save Santa Monica. Santa Monica is not safe, John Alley. He's been a big advocate for cleaning up MacArthur Park. And he was at the presser, and every time Karen Bass stopped speaking, he'd yell at her.
I just spoke to him. Any other questions? He's pissed with you. Any other questions? Go ahead.
He said that he hasn't been in contact. He said he was not made aware of it. So he doesn't blame the LAPD chief.
So Karen Bass says, yeah, I've talked to Norm Langer. Norm Langer says, no, she didn't. This is just like Karen Bass. I didn't know about the fires.
He's just saying that.
What the caller said earlier is correct. It's now just gaslighting. And I don't know if it's going to work for them. This is what Shang Tao tried to fight the recall. Crime is down? No, it's not.
He's just saying that what's happening down there, especially in regard to a lot of the vendors on the streets, he's paying taxes, paying sales tax, and he said he can walk right out his door. And
you know, when there have been vendors right out in front of his restaurant, we have moved on them as soon as we saw them. And so it is, can wind up being a whack-a-mole situation, but...
Whack-a-mole?
And so it is, can wind up being a whack-a-mole situation, but...
Who's Mo?
I don't know if anybody can drive around there now and not see a significant difference.
Next question today.
Doesn't mean the job is done.
So literally, Karen Bass dares you to go drive and see how much better MacArthur Park is.
And not see a significant difference.
Next question today.
Doesn't mean the job is done.
And then immediately admits, oh, it's not better.
We have a long way to go, and we have to deal with the people who are suffering from addiction.
If you don't get those people out of the park will never be better. So what exactly is the issue here? Why aren't you kicking them out of the park?
That's the next step. But I think that we have made significant improvements, and much more needs to be done.
As I mentioned, the reason Karen Bass was here is because Eunisses Hernandez wanted Karen Bass's full support for everything she's doing at MacArthur Park. That has nothing to do with certain LAPD busts that are great, and I'm glad Jim McDonnell is doing those. But the stuff that Eunisses Hernandez is doing in the park, she wants to tout that as the reason there might be a statistical drop in crime. And when you hear what Eunisses Hernandez is spending your tax dollars, not just locally, but state and federal grants on, well, you won't be surprised, but I think you'll understand why Karen Bass has to kiss the ring. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. We're here every single day from 5 to 6 talking about the local issues that matter to you most and taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Your emails as well at randykabc@gmail.com, and search for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcast. Even easier way to do that, go to kabc.com/newsblitz. It's all right there. We're taking your phone calls at 800-222-KABC, 1-800-222-5222. Karen Bass held a self-congratulatory press conference with Eunisses Hernandez, claiming they're starting to clean up MacArthur Park, and there's a noticeable difference. If you drive around there, if you work around there, what are you seeing? Let's go to Ben in Orange. Ben, hello.
Hey there. It's actually Vincent, but that's okay.
Oh, Vincent, you're on the air.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Hey, so listen, the one thing I'd like to say about Karen Bass saying, it's not good to take people away from their immediate surroundings. There should be a law passed. I know it's kind of ridiculous to say that, but there should be a law passed that says if you're not paying taxes, you don't get to choose or decide where you end up. If you pay taxes, hang out on the street. But if you don't, we're going to take you wherever there's housing, wherever there's an opportunity to get you help, to get you cleaned up. Because the other thing that just never ceases to amaze me is the fact that people on the street, that's not really being sanitary. That's not really being civil to the poor people. Maybe they do need help, and they're just not being prodded enough to get them off the street and get them the help they need. But somebody who's actually in power seems to think, yeah, let's leave them on the street because that's where they want to be. So that's my 2 cents. There really should be some kind of law that says, hey, you know what? If you're not paying taxes, you don't get to hang out where you choose.
I think that's a really good point, Ben. Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate it. But no, Karen Bass is going to do everything she can to clean up the MacArthur Park area, except get the drug addicts out of the park. Okay, we told you the reason Karen Bass was at this press conference. It was to validate Eunisses Hernandez and all of her efforts at MacArthur Park. We told you what she was doing our first show back of the year, right before the fires. Well, here she's back, and now she gets to use Karen Bass as proof that everything she's doing is working.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Mayor Bass. We're...
I think that was John Alley. Karen Bass is getting heckled as Eunisses is getting on the stage, apparently out of breath.
We're here today to highlight the progress made in advancing the health, safety, and accessibility.
Yeah, why answer the questions of that concerned constituent? Let me just tell you what a great job I'm doing.
In advancing the health, safety, and accessibility of MacArthur Park, and acknowledge that there's more work to be done.
So then why are you here? We're patting ourselves on the back. We're thanking ourselves for our leadership while admitting there's so much more work to do because it's MacArthur Park.
The progress made thus far is a testament to collaboration and to an all-hands-on-deck approach that both myself and the mayor have committed ourselves to.
Eunisses Hernandez is tying Karen Bass to her, tying Karen Bass to the DSA because she does not want a DSA person to run against her next year. That's what this is about, shoring up support because the mayor looks weak right now.
When we invest in community, we invest in public safety. And that's...
Hey, that rhyme. Maybe Eunisses wants to run for mayor.
And that's what we're seeing at MacArthur Park today. The challenges facing MacArthur Park didn't arise overnight, and they will not be solved overnight either.
So why are we thanking you for your leadership again?
But with our leadership that we have here,
Oh, God.
we're definitely going to take it to a level that none of our predecessors have ever taken it to. For decades, this historic place has been overlooked and left without the investment it needs to thrive. For too long, there's been a culture of government of passing the buck, of shifting responsibility instead of rolling up our sleeves and getting down to business together.
Oh, so she's got buckets full of cliches too.
And for too long, stakeholders have worked in isolation, keeping information, resources, and decisions disconnected and ineffective. We're doing things differently here. We're working together, side by side with city departments, service providers, community leaders, residents, and my colleagues in the city, county, and state. Because that's what
everyone's getting involved to not clean up MacArthur Park.
Because that's what effective leadership looks like, and that's how we get things done, by sharing responsibility and making sure no one falls through the cracks. 3 months ago, my office gathered with members of the community to announce a series of new investments in the park, including peace ambassadors.
Okay. Here we go. Eunisses Hernandez is about to announce all of the things that she gets to fund, all the nonprofits that she gets to spend your money on, whether that's your money from local taxes like property taxes, sales taxes, whether it is business taxes, state taxes, even federal money is involved in this. And honestly, you got to start looking at the granular level, Mr. Elon, if you want to start making some real cuts on all the grants that go out to places like Los Angeles for nonsense.
3 months ago, my office gathered with members of the community to announce a series of new investments in the park, including peace ambassadors.
Of course. We don't need the police there. We've got ambassadors.
Including peace ambassadors, overdose response teams, and new efforts to improve safety and cleanliness. In December...
And how many homeless people are dying a day in Los Angeles? Oh, 7. Yep, they're doing a great job.
In December, my office announced that we were contracting with Healing Urban Barrios and Homies Unidos.
Okay, there's 2 more organizations getting your money. Healing Urban Barrios and what's the other one?
And Homies Unidos.
Homies Unidos. That's right. Everyone is getting money. See, what you're about to discover as you listen to Eunisses Hernandez is this right here is the most clear-cut example of the homeless industrial complex. We've created a third world country disaster war zone scenario in this park. We have pushed a bunch of homeless here, allowed them to do all the drugs, ramp up all the destruction, and now we need to spend a whole bunch of money to clean it up, but not totally clean it up because we're still going to allow the drug addicts to be there.
To deploy,
because they've got nowhere else to go.
To deploy peace ambassador.
How is this cheaper than when we kept all these people in prison?
To deploy peace ambassador teams to MacArthur Park and the surrounding areas. Through this program, we now have 2 full-time teams who work together to reduce and prevent harm and violence.
Oh, that's right. It's harm reductionists that are getting your tax dollars to make sure everyone's got Narcan. Instead of stopping the people from doing fentanyl, we're just going to make sure that when they overdose, they probably don't die.
And they engage in
and then we don't stop them from doing the fentanyl again. In fact, we enable them to do as much fentanyl as they want because chances are someone's going to revive you. Do we see how disgusting this whole model is?
And they engage in de-escalation and partner with local clergy, first responders, crisis intervention workers, homeless outreach workers, street vendors,
Boy, there are a lot of people getting a lot of money based on the suffering that's going on at MacArthur Park. Does this make any sense to you yet?
Homeless outreach workers, street vendors, small businesses, park and library staff, and other stakeholders. In the wake of the January 22nd multi-victim shooting on Alvarado...
Oh, you mean the gang shooting?
In the wake of the January 22nd multi-victim shooting on Alvarado, our peace ambassadors responded immediately and have been instrumental in reducing rumors and retaliation.
Okay, so let's see. There was a big gang shooting in January. And instead of, I don't know, taking down all the gangs because we know who these people are, putting them all in prison or, I don't know, something worse because these people are practically terrorists. No, what do? We send out peace ambassadors to talk them down and make sure they don't keep shooting each other left and right. How's that working out?
In the wake of the January 22nd multi-victim...
And how much are they getting paid?
In the wake of the January 22nd multi-victim shooting on Alvarado, our peace ambassadors responded immediately and have been instrumental in reducing rumors and retaliation.
So if we know who the gang members are, why aren't we arresting them? Why aren't the feds here getting down with RICO charges?
That worked alongside the mayor.
By the way, you want to go for some big headlines that'll make the federal government look good? The feds should go into MacArthur Park right now, bust up the gangs, make a whole bunch of federal arrests, and there's probably a bunch of those gangs are in the country illegally. So win-win.
That worked alongside the mayor's Office of Community Safety and with the community to ensure that we do.
Karen Bass has an Office of Community Safety. That's the same thing they have up in Oakland, where they have life coaches to tell the gang members don't shoot each other.
And with the community to ensure that we do not see further.
By the way, why are we letting the gang members continue to have illegal guns? Oh, we can't take anything about that.
And with the community to ensure that we do not see further escalation and violence. In the month of January alone, our peace.
This is what happens when a ill-informed, I would assume an ill-informed electorate with very low turnout puts somebody in charge who is vehemently anti-police. If you don't know Eunisses Hernandez's backstory, it's like the development of a Marvel supervillain. She was going to become a police officer. She was going to go to college to be a cop. And then all of her no good friends got arrested for being drug dealers, and she switched sides.
In the month of January alone, our peace ambassadors had more than 300 contacts in the field with people experiencing homelessness.
Okay, that is another nonsensical statistic. As we have talked about, some ambassador programs, like, I don't know, Urban Alchemy in places like Culver City or San Francisco, do you know what they describe as a positive contact with a homeless person? Handing out cigarettes, saying, hey, you want a cigarette? There, that counts as a positive contact. More money that we're throwing down the drain that's not cleaning up the park.
Our peace ambassador.
You want to clean up the park, you get the drug addicts out of there. This is not complicated.
Our peace ambassador.
Again, and the reason that it's not complicated is we saw what happened at Echo Park. That's what they did. And the crazy activists, the DSA, Ulysses Hugo people, they destroyed Mitch O'Farrell for cleaning up Echo Park. Destroyed him.
Our peace ambassadors had more than 300 contacts in the field with people experiencing homelessness.
Hey, you want to smoke? There, that counts as a peaceful contact. The budget for the ambassadors in San Francisco, they pay $8 for every single one of those. Hey, you want to smoke?
Street vendors, local businesses, owners, and more. They have successfully reversed 2 overdoses, and they are supporting an array of agencies from UCLA Health, USC Street Medicine, and local.
Okay, how much money is USC and UCLA getting from the government for these street medicine programs? Because we don't want to get the drug addicts out of the park.
And local nonprofits that deliver programs and services in and around MacArthur Park. We also announced the deployment of a full-time mobile overdose response team with Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles.
Okay, do you know the name Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles? Real eagle-eyed fans will do. Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles is the organization that we pay to pass out meth pipes in Skid Row. That's right. The same people that are enabling drug addiction are also getting paid to reduce overdoses. This is the homeless and drug addiction industrial complex at its best.
We also announced
at its worst.
We also announced the deployment of a full-time mobile overdose response team with Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles.
So we have an organization that gets paid to pass out drug paraphernalia. People do not get in trouble for doing the drugs. And then we pay those same people that passed out the paraphernalia even more money to make sure they don't OD. And so they continue this never-ending spiral of almost dying. Yeah, this makes a whole lot of sense. I can't wait to take the family up to MacArthur Park for some fun relaxation. We'll continue here with Eunisses Hernandez unwillingly describing the homeless industrial complex. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's go back to Eunisses talking about what a great job she's doing at MacArthur Park.
We also announced the deployment of a full-time mobile overdose response team with Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles.
Now, do they pass out the Narcan while they also pass out the meth pipes and the needles that then you pay a different organization to clean up and say, look at all the trash we've cleaned up? We'll continue with Eunisses at MacArthur Park. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. Let's see who else Eunisses is giving your money to not clean up MacArthur Park.
That brings trained practitioners who can identify and reverse overdoses to the park and the surrounding area.
Same people that give out the paraphernalia also give out the Narcan.
A recent report that we got highlighted that deaths among individuals experiencing homelessness in LA County averaged nearly 7 per day.
Wow, 5 years ago it was only like 5 a day. So everything that Eunisses and Karen Bass have done have only increased the overdoses. Great.
That's why we launched this team. This is about...
Now that we have Narcan everywhere, even more people are dying from fentanyl. How exactly is this working?
This is about saving lives so that people can...
No, it's not.
This is about saving lives so that people can...
You would save their lives. You get them off the drugs.
This is about saving lives so that people can access treatment and resources, come off the streets and into housing.
How's that working out? Oh, wait. We give them the housing first, and we don't care if they're in treatment or not, and then they burn down the housing.
Our team is equipped with...
Or what happens in San Francisco, they die in the housing.
Our team is equipped with naloxone and oxygen and work to save lives by quickly reaching people in medical distress while reducing the call volume on our first responders and 911. From the beginning of this year, they have saved 24 lives through reversing overdoses and distributed over 3,000 naloxone kits.
And then we gave them more meth pipes and more paraphernalia, including a kit that has a spoon that you can light on fire, and of course a syringe and a rubber band to tie around your arm so you can inject freely again after that. The same people that we are paying to reverse overdoses are the people that we are paying to give out drug paraphernalia. Does this make sense yet?
They also collect and dispose of hazardous materials in the park.
Oh, okay. So Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles is literally getting at both ends. They're getting paid to pass out drug paraphernalia. They're getting paid to reduce overdoses that are caused by that drug paraphernalia in combination with the drugs that we allow in the park. And then they get paid even more to clean up all the trash from all the litter that they gave to the drug addicts. Gee, I wonder if anybody, based on what they've heard today, feels like taking their kids to MacArthur Park this weekend. We'll have a lot more on this, and we'll have a lot more on all the other Karen Bass scandals, because these aren't going away anytime soon. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. It's a shame it's only an hour, but we did our best. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.